Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Creation Guild. So, I'm going to give you a little creative activity, an outlet to get you into your flow, to get your energy and your vibration up, and help you rise up to the vibration of feeling limitless in the new year. So, here's what you're going to need. You're going to need a piece of watercolor paper. You're going to need some watercolor paints, a jar of water here, some different paintbrushes, of course, that you can play with. You're going to also need a piece of paper that you can cut into little pieces that will look very similar to tips of wings, okay? And then you are going to need, I'm going to be using a little bit of like liquid white acrylic. You could use alcohol ink or just liquid white acrylic paint. You might want some Mod Podge or glue, totally up to you. You can decide that as we get going. I also have, for fun, I have some pieces of gold paper. I'm not sure if I'm going to use them or not. I also have some gold leaf flakes in here and some gold sparkles. So I love gold, obviously. Okay, so this activity is called A Wing and a Prayer. And it is a beautiful time to just sink into your heart to figure out what it is that you want to create in your life. So I'm going to turn my camera so you can see my paper instead of my face. Here we go. Okay, so here I have a piece of watercolor paper and I've taped it to a board. Now this paper is not very big. It's not even quite 8.5 by 11. It might actually be a little wider than 8.5. It might be a 9 by 10 inch. But I'm going to also be demonstrating on a piece of paper that's a little bit bigger. So here we have my paper to start off with. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be painting wings after we do a background. And so this being a wing and a prayer, I'm going to use blues because a wing and a prayer just speaks to me of the element of air. And when I think of the element of air, I always think of light blue skies and beautiful clouds. So when you do a background wash of color on your paper, you can get the paper wet a bit if you want first. You can either get your paintbrush into the water, spread some water onto your paper, or you can use a squirt bottle. Now, depending on the weight that you have of the paper, this is a fairly heavy weight watercolor paper, so it can take a fair amount of water on it. And I'm just going to dip my brush into my paint. So I have a tray of watercolors here that are fairly liquidy because they are my Brusho Crystal watercolor paints. And I'm going to have some fun playing with this. So because my palette is wet, I can just kind of put some paint on and let it flow where it wants to flow because I don't want to control this too much. It's going to make a very pretty background. Use a different blue here just to get a little variation. So you see, you can light a candle and put some pretty music on and just play with this part. It is so much fun to watch how the paint and the pigment moves through the water. And there's no wrong way to do this. You're going to want to not make it too dark. Because we're going to be painting and writing on top of this a little bit. And you know what? That would work. I could throw some purples in here, a little bit of purples if I wanted. See what happens when you get it in there. That's so cool. You can see it just spreads out. So this is maybe a little darker than what I wanted, so I might not do too much more of that. Just soften that a little bit. And I'm going to throw a little bit more blue in here. And you know what? That's all I need to do. Okay. So that's the first step. Basically, just create some color on your watercolor paper. You could use whatever colors you wanted. Just keep in mind that our next step is actually writing on here once it's dry. So first of all, we need to let it dry. And that could take, depending on the paper that you have, you might want to give yourself a good half hour or maybe even a little longer, right? To let that dry. And it's very cool when you come back. It looks very different once it's dried. So it's a lot of fun just to gaze into this watercolor paper after it's dry and look and see what shows up for you. Your paper becomes like a portal as you get into this meditative state in your creative flow. Your paper will take you away. It'll take you into new territory, new dimensions. And that's our goal here, because we are painting to open up to our own inner power, our own inner wisdom and guidance. And so I'm doing this to show you some of the activities that we are going to be doing in the Soulfully Aligned You Creative Portal that begins in January. And it is going to be a private group. Each month we'll have a theme to it where we will be digging in and going deep into our heart and our soul to clear out anything that's keeping us from creating our heart's desires in our life. It is a time for you. It is your soul growth. It is your soul commitment. It is your time to nourish your soul, replenish yourself, and really take in everything that you can, all that beautiful source energy, so that you can go out and serve in a better way, in a bigger capacity, and rise up higher in the world. And what happens is your life begins to reflect that beautiful path that you're on. It begins to take on a new luminous glow, and things start to come together in your life that perhaps you didn't imagine would happen before, or could only imagine would happen. So I'm going to set this aside for a minute to let it dry. I have another piece of paper here that I've started the next step on, and I want to show it to you. Okay, so the next step is you're going to get out a pen and like a Sharpie, hopefully a waterproof Sharpie, and it could also be a pen. Now, this background ended up being much darker than what I had intended in the beginning. So that's why I said keep it a little bit light, but I think it's going to work out just fine anyways. Now, on this paper, once it's dry, here's what you're going to do. You're going to write a free write session of what would you create if you were completely limitless, if you could fly to the highest realms in your life, if you could soar and you had complete freedom. What would you create? And so you want to begin this, and it doesn't have to be a full page as I wrote. It could be just a few lines on here. If I was limitless, and I am limitless, what would I create, right? What would you create in your life? So take some time, and you can pause the video to do that next step. Write out What would you create in your life if you were completely limitless? Complete freedom to do, have, be whatever it is that you want. All right, now the next step we're going to do is, remember those pieces of paper that you had, or that I said you needed to cut out? On these pieces of paper, you're going to write a prayer, your prayer. So I have just written out my prayer for grace, right? I have 4 pieces of paper here. My prayer for abundance, my prayer for soul strength, and my prayer for the world. You don't even have to, you can have as many as you want. So you can do many more than just 4, or you can do less. Now, each of these, and I say my prayer for the world, when I place it on my wings here that I'm going to draw on in a minute, it's going to be infused with the energy of my thoughts and all the prayers that I have for our world. Okay, so the next step is we're going to be drawing some wings on here. Now, they don't have to be perfect. They can be as simple as you want, just 2 beautiful wings, or you could maybe just do 1 wing, or perhaps you might have a few sets of wings on here. Whatever you are drawn to, that is what you want to create. Now, I definitely use images off the internet. I'll Google or go on Pinterest and find some beautiful shapes of wings and use that as my source to help me get going, right? So you could do that. You could take a look at, templates for wings and absolutely use that. So I'm going to take my white paint here. I need to grab a plate to put it on. There's one right here. It's an old one, but I'm going to add my liquid paint on here so that it's getting a little bit dry. So hopefully, there we go. Yeah, it's getting very sticky. So I'm going to add a little water to it. And I'm going to grab a paintbrush, move this one out of the way. Find a place to put this without spilling. Okay, so I'm going to use a paintbrush here, and I'm going to draw some wings on top of my writing. So I'm just going to go, okay, here's my center. And like I said, it does not have to be perfect, but you're going to just start to create the shapes of some feathers. And I'm not going to paint the whole thing in. I'm going to create the outline, and then I'll get the other side too. Now, if you wanted to, you could draw these first with a pencil, depending on, I just knew I wouldn't be able to see my pencil marks on here anyways, because my background turned out much darker than I would have liked, but that's okay. So I'm going to just draw with my paintbrush, draw some wing shapes in here. And so my intention as I do this is that I'm thinking about, you know, I really could become limitless. I know I could. And if I became limitless, I could serve the world in a much bigger way. I could do more, right? If I became limitless in my health, in my energy, in my beliefs, in my finances, there's so much more I could do to serve. And so I'm going to envision myself being limitless and spend some time in there. You know, we're afraid to go there because oftentimes we're afraid of disappointment. But we'll never get there if we don't dream it first. And so we dream it, we vision it, we speak it into our future. Anything that was ever created in this world was created first in thoughts. And so, trying to get them fairly similar here. And hopefully you guys can see this okay. All right, so I have the shape of the wings here, and I can keep adding to these wing tips and creating more beautiful shapes. Like I could add some curves in here and some more feathers. Notice I have to keep dipping my paintbrush into the water to get the paint to go on smoothly. Okay, so once I have some shapes in here, I'm not done yet, but this is where I'm going to take my prayers and I'm going to glue them on. So I'm going to figure out where I want my prayers to be. And then I can continue to create shapes around it. So, and perhaps I might add a few more. I might like to add a few more in. I'm also going to look at creating some beautiful shapes here with some gold. You know, have a little bit of a gold collage here. I have to add more shapes on this side. So I'm gonna collage some of that on. I'm gonna keep adding my white in there once I get these glued on. So I would just basically use some of this Mod Podge and a paintbrush. I'm just gonna put some of this on my tray here. And I'm just going to paint the back with some of this. It works the same as glue. It's kind of more the crafter's glue. You can use it for fabric or anything. You could put some beautiful fabric on here too if you wanted to. It works good for all kinds of textured papers. And you keep adding and layering and filling in with paints, with colors. You could use gold paint too if you wanted. And we've been, we've instilled and infused this paper with our message of being limitless that we wrote underneath, and now our prayers of support from the universe on top. Put some more. Oops, we'll put some more of these on. There we go. And this is the first step of the next couple videos that I'm going to share with you of beautiful soul work, creative flow work, and how we can use creative activities, painting, to do soul work, to create what it is we want to create in our life, to begin to manifest into our life what we want, become conscious creators, and start to take a little bit of control over, that's the go. Take a little bit of control rather than just floating through life and taking whatever life serves at you. You can start to create a life that is filled with love and peace and joy and, mental health and physical health, healing. It's amazing how when we do the healing on an energetic level this way, that we are able to heal physical pain in a lot of ways. So definitely have had experiences myself with that, and experiences with clients that have been taking workshops with me and have said, oh my gosh, I just did that activity, and as soon as I did it, the pain in my knee was gone, or the pain in my hip was gone. It was connected. Cellular memory, cellular connection. So that is how you keep going. You play, you can collage, you can have a lot of fun. I'm going to keep going with mine. I'm going to add on some gold flakes and some beautiful, maybe some sparkles, and then I will post mine at the end. So I hope you enjoy this activity. Dive in. And as I said, this is one activity very similar to what we do in the creatively aligned, the soulfully aligned you creative portal, as well as, increasing our intuition, doing activities to increase our intuition, doing shamanic paintings once a month, painting our spirit animals, connecting through meditation. There is just so much going on, and it will become your home base to keep coming back to each month. And it's always optional as to what activities you want to do, what you have time for, because life sometimes gets busy and we feel pressure. It's not a problem. So as a month, if you get a month that you're super busy and you can't do a lot of the activities, that are there for you for when you can do them and when you want to join in. And some people just really love when we gather and we do the meditations together. I take you through guided meditations, and some people just really love that community and the energy that is gathered as we meditate together. Okay, so you guys go ahead and try, and I would love to see yours. And I will see you on the next video. Thanks for joining me at the Creation Guild. Bye.